Around a week and a half ago, I made a video titled Why I Cancelled My WWE Network Subscription. Now, in that video I talked about how, in my eyes, the network itself just isn't worth having. Like, I really honestly think that at this stage, because with all these current rumors and the news that Vince McMahon is going to move WWE pay-per-views to ESPN Plus, Fox, one of those major networks. So in other words, WrestleMania is going to be back to being $60, same with the other big pay-per-views, and the network would literally be redundant. There'd be no point to having the network. So, fresh off hearing that, it really came to my attention that I need to cancel the network, and I did. So, I made that video a week and a half ago. In the time since then, I've really thought about the network as a whole. This run from 2014 through 2020 that the network has had. Has it been a success? Has it been a failure? In this video, I'm going to tell you all why, in my opinion, the whole thing was a complete failure and a complete disaster. Now, as fans of World Wrestling Entertainment, it's a great thing. It's been a great thing to have. If you still have it, it's good to have. But on the whole, on their behalf, on a business standpoint for them, it's just why? It's a failure. Moving from a $60 pay-per-view model, which wasn't sustainable, given the quality of shows they're putting on, but a $60 model that wasn't sustainable, moving down to a $9.99 per month, and not just $9.99 for the pay-per-views, $9.99 for every old pay-per-view, all these new fresh content, all of these documentaries, all of these exclusive shows, live wrestling like NXT, 205 Live, all of this, NXT UK takeovers, everything. It was a hotspot, $9.99. Oh, it still is a hotspot, $9.99 a month for all of that content. So for $120, you can get year-round WWE content at the tip of your fingers. But when you really think about it, in recent memory, as I talked about in that other video, what's still left on the network? You've got what? Because NXT is airing a day and a bit after it airs live on USA, so that's not live anymore. No one watches 205 Live. No one watches Main Event 2 weeks after it airs, and no one watches Raw or SmackDown a month after it airs. So what are you watching as far as live wrestling on the network? There is none. There's pay-per-views. And the Saudi shows don't count because those shows are utter trash and garbage. What else? The sea-level pay-per-views? So you're going to be watching Stomping Grounds and Extreme Rules on the network? I'm opt to not even watch those pay-per-views at all. That's how little I care about watching Stomping Grounds, Extreme Rules, Money in the Bank, those shows. And then you have your Big Four pay-per-views. These shows justify the network. But at the same time, Vince McMahon wants to move these shows to another network. Off of the WWE network onto another network. Another streaming service. Really? Really, Vince? When you see that now, it really makes you think back. In this 7 years the network's been around, well, 6, and coming on the 7th year, this whole network's just been, from their perspective, it should be a failure. Okay, even Dana White, I forget exactly when this was, but the UFC president came out and said that from a business standpoint, he doesn't understand what they're doing as far as Vince McMahon and the World Wrestling Entertainment Company. Because this is a brand who, for years and decades, their pay-per-views were $40 to $70. Now, they're $9.99. Can you not... so a half-witted idiot with 2 brain cells could see that, well, that's not as profitable as having $60 pay-per-views when you go back to $9.99. So, right there, the amount of revenue they've lost out on in these past few years. Now, granted, if the pay-per-view model was still around, given how bad the show quality is, they'd be doing utterly god-awful buy rates. The buy rates would be bad. I couldn't picture more than maybe 10,000 people ordering these pay-per-views. How many people do you think would order Battleground 2017? Or how many people do you think would order Backlash 2018? Extreme Rules 2018? Shows like that. Fastlane 20, pick a year. I mean, most of these shows, I wouldn't pay for outside of the network cost. I wouldn't pay more than $9.99 for most of these shows. Hell, most of these general pay-per-views that aren't the big four, I wouldn't pay a dime for. I hate the fact that I'm paying for these shows. Because watching Saudi shows and knowing that I'm giving them money for this, it makes me feel sick deep down. I don't want to be supporting and rewarding Vince McMahon and World Wrestling Entertainment for putting on these Saudi shows. I really don't. And this network, on the whole, has done that. It's rewarded them to an extent. But at the same time, their bottom line's been so severely affected by this change. Now, as I said before with Dana White, the UFC, they've kept down the track of $60, $70 pay-per-views every month. Which, I mean, are they really ever worth it? Honestly. Like, the UFC shows, granted, like, the thing with the UFC, because it's, like, not predetermined, not scripted, you can have, like, a Conor McGregor fight, like the one against Cowboy Cerrone. The Conor McGregor fight, where that's the main thing for the pay-per-view. Everyone was buying the pay-per-view to see Conor McGregor. So people were shelling out $70 to see Conor McGregor fight for the first time in the UFC since, October 2018 against Khabib Nurmagomedov. Love saying that name, but Conor McGregor's first fight in over a year. People were shelling out $70 in the pay-per-view model to see that, and the damn thing went 40 seconds. It was really over in like 20 seconds, because once Conor got Cowboy against the cage, it was over. So, realistically, you're paying $70 to see 25 seconds. Which, that's a waste of money. And then the other pay-per-views, unless you're a diehard UFC fan, a lot of the fighters, like the main events, like the main event, like the last fight in each UFC show, even I, as like a super casual fan, has heard of. But the rest of the fights, you barely know anyone. And are those worth $60, $50? Like, that pay-per-view model is completely flawed. But the WWE is on the other end of the spectrum. $9.99 for their pay-per-views. And as I said, it's not just the pay-per-views, it's all the other content that comes with it. Now, granted, as I said in that Why I Cancelled My Subscription video, the other content that comes with the $9.99 is utter crap at this point. Like, the Ruthless Aggression series is revisionist history to the utmost extent. You know, it's Bruce Pritchard saying that, well, we have to go in a different direction in the Ruthless Aggression era because all the Attitude Era stars were moving on. The Rock, Austin, all these guys, and we had to change direction, and we needed superstars to stand up. It's like, this is revisionist history to the utmost extent. So that's Ruthless Aggression, and then what? Do you want to watch an hour and 25-minute episode of The Bump every week? Do you want to watch This Week in WWE hosted by Scott Stanford? Like, all these shows aren't worth watching. And that's like the only new content they do anymore. Because outside of the 3 WWE 24 episodes every year, or, I don't know, what else they even post on that? Drive Along every 2 months, where you get to see what Carl Anderson says to Luke Gallows in the car. Like, that content isn't worth it. The pay-per-views aren't worth it. And I'm saying they aren't worth it for a price of $9.99 per month. Like, US dollars. Like, that's pathetic. Vince, that's honestly pathetic. You can't even get that amount of content to be worth that much. When NXT was on the network, it was easily worth $9.99 a month. Even for 4 NXT shows, live wrestling, content you could only see on the network, that alone was worth $9.99. But now that NXT's not live, is the old pay-per-view library worth $9.99 when most of the time you're not even going to go back and watch those shows? If you have to force yourself to watch the shows, is it worth it? Like, if you're in a habit of watching all the shows and you're enjoying it, great, it's 100% worth $9.99. But on the whole, it's just not worth it, in my opinion. It's just not. Like, the network itself, when it first came out, there was that WrestleMania series they did, which I think was that WrestleMania? Or like Greatest Rivalries, WrestleMania, the Attitude Era, or Monday Night Wars series. Like, all that stuff was great in that first year for the network. All of it was really good. They were making a conscious effort to really make this $9.99 price tag worth it. And after the first year, they hit 1 million subscriptions. I remember they hit 1 million subs to the network at Rumble 2015. So when Reigns won the Rumble, like a few days after that, network subscriptions spiked because the mainstream wanted to see Reigns and Lesnar, and you can't blame them. That's like a pretty marquee match. So that spiked subscriptions. They hit 1 million at that stage, and the grand goal was 2 million, 3 million. They wanted to be like the Netflix of WWE. They wanted to be MLB Network for World Wrestling Entertainment. But it just never turned out that way because pro wrestling doesn't have the audience or the fan base in this era to draw that. Now, I know technology was nowhere near as advanced as it is now, and you couldn't have done this in the late 90s, but if they had the WWE Network, I need to really work on that, WWE Network in the late 90s, early 2000s, how many subs do you think the network would have? 4, 5 million? I think we could get 5 million subs to the network in the late 90s, easily. Because now you've got 1.4 million over the course of 6 years, which is pathetic. Now, I don't know what the highest number of subs they've ever reached was. Probably 1.67 million, I think. Something around that figure. They haven't hit 2 million, not that much. After the first year, as I said, they had 1 million. And then ever since, they've just slowly been going up. You go down if they do something like terrible, like if Reigns wins a Rumble, or if Reigns does something here, the network subs will dip by a couple, probably 10,000 or something. But they slowly climb up, and their goal is to gain 40,000 subs in WrestleMania season, and all this stuff. And it's like, seriously, is this your grand goal for the network? Like, and it's stuff like that really makes me sit back at the end of the day and think, this network's been a failure. Now, for us as fans, up until NXT was moved from the network to USA, from the WWE network to USA, the network was a complete success. It really was, from a fan's perspective. All the pay-per-views, live content, live wrestling, pay-per-views, documentaries, old shows, like everything. It was worth the money. Now, it's just not. It really, I can't tell you with a straight face, this network is worth it anymore. And it's done the WWE World Wrestling Entertainment so much of a disservice over the years, having $9.99 per month coming out of customers' pockets, as opposed to $30, $40, $50, $60 per month. Like, for Christ's sake, giving away free months? Like, I get why you do it to an extent, but giving WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Rumble, all these big shows away for free? Seriously? Giving away WrestleMania, SummerSlam, all these big pay-per-views for free. Are you joking me? NXT TakeOver, WrestleMania, like, if there were months where, like, they do a Fastlane or Elimination Chamber show or whatever in the first week of March. They do WrestleMania, like, first day or two of April, and they do a TakeOver, the Hall of Fame. So you could genuinely, at, like, the very end of February or the start of March, do a subscription to the network for free. You get your free month. Watch one pay-per-view, like a pre-WrestleMania pay-per-view. Watch a bunch of content in March on old pay-per-views, all that stuff. Get to NXT TakeOver, WrestleMania weekend. Watch an incredible wrestling show. Watch the Hall of Fame. Watch all the stuff that comes along with WrestleMania weekend. Watch WrestleMania itself. And then watch stuff coming out of WrestleMania. Like, they'd usually put a bunch of content up then. You could have watched all of that for free. Does that make any sense from a business perspective? Putting all that effort in on your behalf, and the customer has no charge? That's so flawed, Vince. Whoever thought that would be a good idea? That business model is terrible. And it's impacted their bottom line so much so to a point where that if they didn't have those Fox and Saudi deals, I don't know where they'd be, because this network model is not sustainable for anyone. It's really not. $9.99 per month with 1.4 million subs. Or 1.6 million, or whatever. Like, it's, I don't know, if they were drawing in Netflix-like numbers for subscriptions, or if this network was out in the Attitude Era, and they were drawing in 4, 5, 6 million subscriptions, then this would be well and truly worth it. But it's just not. And at the end of the day, when Vince McMahon either steps down or looks back on this network in totality, he's going to realize, this wasn't the best idea. This really wasn't. This network could have been so great, but at the end of the day, it's amounted to nothing. Like, if you're a diehard pro wrestling fan, it's great to have. If you enjoy watching old World Championship Wrestling shows, old Extreme Championship Wrestling shows, if you want to watch Mid-South Atlantic Championship Wrestling from 1984, if you want to watch all the WrestleManias in March ahead of WrestleMania 36, if you want to watch all the SummerSlams coming up on SummerSlam 2020, or all the Survivor Series shows The Undertaker's been in, coming up on The Undertaker's 30th anniversary, like, all that kind of stuff, it's great to have. But if you're just a kind of more casual fan, there's no point to having the network. Okay, there's none. Because there's no live wrestling, there's no captivating fresh content, the Ruthless Aggression series doesn't count, the pay-per-views are either for free, or they're going to be moved off the network to begin with. Like, it's just a bit of a waste. So yeah, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Be sure to like, comment, and sub. Realistically, just all about the network today. This is a follow-up to that why I cancelled my subscription video. Honestly, just a general discussion about the network. Leave down below. Do you think the network's been a failure? Personally, I do. Like, honestly, I think the World Wrestling Entertainment Network, the whole model, $9.99, like, I guarantee you, now, I don't know how the math shakes out for this, but if you did, you could make this thing $12.99, or $14.99, actually not 14. I feel like you can do $11.99 or $12.99, and then as all the subscriptions, like all the subscribers, over 1 million of them subscribe month after month after month, even your bottom line would be significantly better then. Or you could actually not show WrestleMania on the network, not show the Rumble, and have that on pay-per-view. And have it so like you can only see WrestleMania and the Rumble and SummerSlam Survivor Series on pay-per-view. Something like that. A model like that would have been so much better. But instead, hashtag free WrestleMania for like 6 straight years, as if that benefits them at all. And they don't even get enough uptake of new subscribers and new audience to make that worth doing. So the whole model's flawed. Leave down below what you think of it. That's the video. Sure, like, comment, sub. See ya.